figure something out. I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power!
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the poor where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, my best align.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days at midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in the hands of the greatest.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent, joining you live from Washington, D.C. today, where, look, I'm in touch, so you be in touch. Follow me on all the socials at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and I pop right on up fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app if you haven't already, and that way you can check us out anytime. You can even tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and there we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, be sure to subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast, and also check us out on YouTube. You can go to the KBLA YouTube page, and you can check us out. And you can also go to my personal YouTube channel at Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and check out some of our best of interviews. You never want to miss those. And so that covers all of our bases. Happy Monday, everyone. While we're talking about checking things out, I want to encourage you to check out the March on Washington Film Festival. The March on Festival has started. It started officially today. Mark your calendar for today, September 15th through Sunday, September 21st, so you don't miss any of the really exciting programming. You can visit their festival website to check out their calendar of events. If you go to marchonfest.org/festival, again, that's marchonfest.org/festival. Be sure to survey the virtual and live streamed events, even if you're not in DC. This is what I love about this festival. I mean, it's great to attend in person here in Washington, D.C., but if you can't, their live stream game is pretty tight. You can make reservations virtually. Some offerings are free. Others have a nominal fee, so be sure to RSVP for whatever you choose. Remember, there are multiple levels of passes, and again, lots of really great programming, especially at a time where our history is being erased, where folks don't want to talk about slavery. They don't want to talk about the civil rights movement. They don't want to talk about Jim Crow. They don't want to talk about nothing. But you know what? We still talk about it. We still celebrate our history 365. we still tell these stories. We still lean into the tradition of oral history. And the March On Festival is in direct alignment with that. If you are in town on September 20th, you don't want to miss really special event. They're screening these student and emerging filmmakers. There's a competition there. And then they will present the Vivian Malone Courage Award that will be bestowed on my friend and colleague, journalist and activist, Joanne Reed. And in addition to Joy getting that award, she'll be in conversation with former U.S. Attorney General, the Honorable Eric Holder. And so lots of goodness happening at the March On Festival. Now, it's time for your National News Roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, the Associated Press is reporting that a judge rules that the Trump administration illegally fired thousands of probationary workers. The Trump administration's Central Human Resources Office acted illegally when it directed the mass firings of probationary workers as a part of President Trump's efforts to downsize the federal government. That's what a judge has ruled. The U.S. District Judge of San Francisco said just this past Friday in awarding judgment to a coalition of labor unions and nonprofits that the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, quote, unlawfully exceeded its own powers and usurped and exercised powers reserved by Congress to each individual. That's what the judge had ruled. He said that the government disagrees but does not persuade. In the defense that the office did not direct employment decisions but merely offered guidance to other agencies, the Office of Personnel Management did not immediately respond to any comments from the press as of this afternoon. But you should know that more than 25,000 probationary workers were terminated soon after Trump took office in January. That's according to a legal declaration from departments gathered as a part of the suit. The judge in March had ordered the reinstatement of probationary workers, saying that the Office of Personnel Management had likely acted unlawfully in ordering terminations of workers at other agencies. But the Supreme Court, if you might remember, they set that decision aside in April on a technical basis without ruling on the underlying case. So this judge, who was a nominee of Democratic President Bill Clinton, was particularly troubled that workers were fired for poor performance, which the administration defines as not being mission critical at a time of cutbacks. Probationary workers are generally younger employees who are just starting their careers, but they can also include older employees who moved into new positions. And so a little bit of news there in the courts, a setback for the Trump administration for now. Moving along, excuse me, Trump officials vow a crackdown on left-wing terrorism after the Charlie Kirk killing. USA Today is reporting that a number of folks angered in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. Some people call it assassination, some people call it murder. USA Today was calling it an assassination. Just want to point that out. Trump administration officials say that they're planning to use, quote, every resource available across the federal government to target left-wing organizations that they contend are promoting political violence. Vice President J.D. Vance and Stephen Miller, the Deputy White House Chief of Staff, today discussed plans to, quote, go after left-wing non-government organizations they said support, quote, doxing campaigns against conservatives, helping to orchestrate riots, publicizing the address of political opponents, and promoting messages intended to create violence. That's what they say. Stephen Miller called political violence on the left, quote, a vast domestic terrorist movement, vowing that the Trump administration would use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to, quote, identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy the networks. It will happen, and we will do it in Charlie's name. That's what Stephen Miller pledged today. Neither the vice president nor Miller identified groups that could be prosecuted or face other actions from the administration. And so how much of that is tough talk versus how much of that is an actual promise to make lives more difficult? It's anybody's guess. But no guessing here. The Washington Post is reporting that the national park is to remove photos of enslaved man's scars. Yes, the Washington Post is exclusively reporting that the Trump administration has ordered the removal of signs and exhibits related to slavery at multiple national parks, according to 4 people familiar with the matter, including a historic photograph of a formerly enslaved man who's showing his scars on his back. The individuals who spoke on conditions of anonymity because they weren't authorized to speak to the media, they said that the removals in line with President Trump's, President Trump's March executive order directing the Interior Department to eliminate information that reflects a, quote, corrosive ideology that disparages historic Americans. That's what they said. The National Park Service officials are broadly interpreting that directive to apply to information on racism, sexism, slavery, gay rights, and even persecution of indigenous people. Following Trump's order, the Interior Department officials issued policies ordering agency employees to report any information, including signage and gift shop items that might be out of compliance. Trump officials also launched an effort asking park visitors to report offending materials, but they mostly received criticism of the administration and praise for the parks. The latest orders include removing information at Harper's Ferry National Historic Park in West Virginia. If you're familiar with that history, that's where the abolitionist John Brown led a raid seeking to arm slaves for a revolt. Staff have been told that information about the president's house site in Philadelphia, where George Washington kept slaves, does not comply with policy either. Jonathan Zimmerman, a University of Pennsylvania professor who studies the history of education, said that in his latest installment in the Trump administration's unprecedented interference with the nation's civic institutions, a campaign which also included Trump's takeover of the Kennedy Center and attempts to pressure the Smithsonian. And so this is in alignment with that. It is ratcheting up. It is not dying down. Our history is being erased. And all that means, in my view, is we need to recommit to telling it in every form. Your voice matters, my voice matters, the arts matter, it all matters. When we come forward, I'm looking forward to being in conversation with someone who understands that in so many very different ways. He has worked inside and outside of government, and he's an expert on the Christian nationalist agenda that is just beginning to ramp up. When we come forward, I'll be joined with Bishop Joseph W. Tolton. He is the former advisor to the U.S. State Department's Office of Religion and Global Affairs. He's also the founder of Interconnected Justice, a Pan-African advocacy organization that's building a policy blueprint to counter the Christian nationalist agenda here at home and abroad. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Bishop Tolton when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Ron had a tax problem he just couldn't handle on his own.
I owed the IRS taxes for over 5 years, but I didn't have any money to pay the taxes.
Those years cost him dearly.
Most of it was fees and interest. It was horrible.
Ron finally called in the pros.
I called Optima Tax Relief, and boy, am I happy I did.
The leading tax resolution firm, Optima, is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. They've resolved over $1 billion for their clients. Ron was overjoyed.
They settled my account with IRS. I was ecstatic. They are a lifesaver. They are. I am so happy.
Take Ron's advice and call Optima now for a free consultation.
Yeah, don't do like I did and wait. Call Optima Tax Relief. Do it now. You'll be ecstatic like me.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from Black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, Black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of Black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling Black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic Black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandlost.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
Hit me! National News The Consequence. Informed opinion. And analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
To be assassinated. But I'm overwhelmed seeing the flags of the United States of America at half staff, calling this nation to honor and venerate a man who was an unapologetic racist and spent all of his life sowing seeds of division and hate into this land. And hearing people with selective rage who are mad about Charlie Kirk but didn't give a damn about Melissa Hortman and her husband when they were shot down in their home, tell me I ought to have compassion for the death of a man who had no respect for my own life. I am sorry, but there's nowhere in Bible where we are taught to honor evil. And how you die does not redeem how you lived. You do not become a hero in your death when you are a weapon of the enemy in your life. I can abhor the violence that took your life, but I don't have to celebrate how you chose to live. I am overwhelmed.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, along with Bishop Joseph W. Tolton. Bishop, welcome to the show. Like Pastor John Wesley of Alfred Street Baptist Church, one of the oldest Baptist churches here in the DMV area. They're in Virginia. This was a clip that went viral over the weekend. This was from a sermon that Pastor John Wesley gave just this past Sunday. There's a lot of mixed feelings around the death of Charlie Kirk, and how folks are choosing to remember Charlie Kirk for Black folks who ended up on target lists, professors who ended up on target lists that Charlie Kirk had a hand in placing them on. They're remembering him differently. For Black women who have been the target of Charlie Kirk's rhetoric, they're remembering him differently. Bishop Tolton, what's your reaction to what we heard from Pastor Wesley and how so many people in our community and beyond are remembering Charlie Kirk?
First off, let me just say that it's good to be with you today. I deeply appreciate the invitation. I think that it has made a lot of sense to me that video has gone viral, because I think that many people were feeling a tremendous amount of angst, and I think some residual guilt about the fact that they actually had come to a very reasonable conclusion, the same conclusion Pastor Wesley came to, which is that certainly we can always honor life because life comes from God. We can always denounce the murderous taking of life because that is always wrong. But I think the pastor said it better than anyone possibly could say it. You do not get to change who you were in death because of how you died. That doesn't get to kind of rebrand or repackage you when you spent your life with a message that was one of such mass destruction. I read several clips over the weekend reminding myself just to be prepared and educated about some of the things that Mr. Kirk has said, and just such deeply wounding and shocking, violent rhetoric. There's no reasonable explanation as to why one would expect people of color and African Americans in particular to just be full of potential eulogies for this man, given that he was a destruction. He was a weapon of mass destruction as it relates to our community.
I mean, one of the things that I shared at the top of this show is, a USA Today article that chronicles how Trump officials are vowing to crack down on left-wing so-called terrorism after Charlie Kirk's killing. We saw Vice President J.D. Vance today host Charlie Kirk's podcast and radio show as a so-called tribute to him. It was a part of that conversation. He talked to Deputy Chief of Staff at the White House, Stephen Miller, whose stances on things have been problematic, to say the least, his stances on things that have really enabled the sort of Christian nationalism that you have been fighting against. Talk to us about, this rush to squash the left. We're still awaiting details as to how this happened, what led to the killing of Charlie Kirk, who Tyler Robinson is. There's still so many details that we don't have, but I'm taken aback at how this White House and how we've seen conservatives really sort of rush to judgment, and even going as far as blaming so-called trans ideology, as they see it, as a motivation for the alleged killer.
On the far right, which has been completely captured by far-right extremist religious ideology that is expressed in its political aspirations and momentum. It is incredibly important that we look at every headline that's presented to us through the sieve of that perspective and that analysis. On the far right, they are determined, and you said it well just a few moments ago, to destroy the left. This is not about engaging with the left. This is not about moving the country to be center right. This is not about trying to get to a 55% of approval rating on certain policies, but this is about an all-out war to literally undo and to destroy the left completely, so that there is no political dissent, and that MAGA emerges as the only viable political option that Americans have. And so this is yet another opportunity to move toward those in political intentions that they have. And I just think it's really important for us to really get that, because you can't bring a knife to a gunfight. They are intent on destroying the left. So that means that you have to destroy the political base on the left. That would start with African Americans. If you're going to undo the democracy, then you've got to go back to where our democracy was constituted. That was at Selma. It was the civil rights movement which gave the country and the world ultimately the gift of the fulfillment of this democracy actually behaving like we are all equal under, we are all equally in one, and have the same protections under the law. As we are seeing this political machine intended on undoing who we are as a country, everything that comes their way, they assess and analyze. What opportunity do we have to move our broader goal forward? Now, they're going to give you rhetoric and talking points that might make sense in the context of what is happening immediately, but they are always thinking about this longer game of how is it that we move to really consolidating ourselves as an autocracy, establishing the political right as the only viable alternative, and absolutely crushing dissent on the left. This is another opportunity to do so. And this talk and saber rattling, essentially, as it were, in terms of targeting left-wing NGOs is just another action that they're taking, justified by something that they are completely manipulating.
It's rare that we have a chance to be in conversation with somebody who is a strategist, a diplomat, and a bishop who is intent on meeting the moment boldly through his faith-based rebuttals to the movement trying to hijack both democracy and religion. We got the right one with us. When we come forward, Bishop, I want to ask you, as Christian nationalist rhetoric, as it escalates, so many people are asking, what do we do about it? What can we do about it inside and outside the halls of power? I'm going to get that answer from Bishop when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump is criticizing New York Governor Kathy Hochul for endorsing Zohran Mamdani for mayor, calling it a shocking and bad move for the city. Hochul backed Mamdani in a New York Times op-ed, praising his affordability platform, but noting she doesn't share all of his views.
I believe that we need someone who's going to be open-minded and optimistic.
Trump is signaling support for Andrew Cuomo and reportedly offered current Black Mayor Eric Adams a role in his administration if he drops out of the race. UCLA has fired head football coach Deshaun Foster, who is Black, after an 0-3 start capped by a home loss to New Mexico. Tim Skipper will take over as interim coach. And Serena and Venus Williams are launching a new podcast called Stockton Street, named after their childhood street in Compton. Debuting Wednesday on X, the first episode was filmed at Arthur Ashe Stadium before the U.S. Open, with the sisters interviewing each other. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Norwalk slowing on the 605. Northbound delays pushing back from Rosecrans. You're on the brakes ahead all the way to the 10 freeway. Pasadena, eastbound side of the 210. Delays away from the 134s. You continue all the way to Citrus. Tough in Burbank on the 5. Northbound pocket slowing, leaving Hollywood Way all the way to the 14 freeway. And the southbound side of the 5 out of Burbank. Loading up at Alameda, delays to the 605.
Do you really know what's in your tap water? LifeSource believes your water should support your health, not work against it. Upgrade your water with a LifeSource whole house water system during September's Double Dip promo. Call 800-WATER-99 or visit LifeSourceWater.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The firing of UCLA head football coach Deshaun Foster on Sunday was not a surprise. Things were heading in this direction from the first game of the season when UCLA was blown out at home by Utah 43-10. In the Bruins' 0-3 start, they were outscored 108-43. In Friday's loss to New Mexico, they were outscored 21-0 in the fourth quarter. In that game, the Bruins gave up 298 yards rushing and committed 13 penalties for 116 yards. 13 penalties is an indication that Foster had trouble maintaining discipline on his team. These are not the kind of numbers that will make a team competitive in the Big Ten Conference, which has 7 teams ranked in the top 25. Foster's dismissal reduces the number of black head football coaches in the Big Ten to 3. James Franklin at number 2 Penn State, Sharon Moore at Michigan, and Mike Loxley at Maryland. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Pick up the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah,
Gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Hey, KBLA 1580 delegation, your health matters to us. We know that information is power, especially when it comes to prevention and treatment. That's why we're proud to introduce the brand new KBLA Health and Wellness Hub. This online space is built just for you, connecting our community to trusted health resources, culturally relevant care, and even access to diverse clinical trials and emerging therapies. Whether you're looking for information on common conditions, mental health support, or just want to stay on top of your wellness journey, we got you. And the best part, it's all on our website at KBLA1580.com. Accessible, empowering, community-focused. So just go to KBLA1580.com and click on the Health and Wellness Hub icon, because knowledge is power and your health is everything. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and it's always an honor to be in the presence of Bishop Joseph W. Tolton. If you don't know, you should know. He's a former advisor to the U.S. State Department's Office of Religion and Global Affairs. But he's also the founder of Interconnected Justice. It's a Pan-African advocacy organization building a policy blueprint to counter the Christian nationalist agenda globally. And if you're not clear on what exactly is on that Christian nationalist agenda, let me just give you a few recent examples. Since we've been talking, the Washington Post has reported that Trump is ending key health and environmental projects in Black communities, reversing years and years and years of projects. The Trump administration has axed nearly 24 projects addressing health and environmental issues in Southern Black communities, according to an analysis from the Washington Post. That means rural Alabama counties lost $14 million grant to upgrade their sanitation system. A historically Black Virginia neighborhood won't receive $20 million, a $20 million grant to stop severe flooding. Our folks in Jackson, Mississippi, well, they lost $20 million grant to fund construction of a resiliency hub, providing shelter and water and support during a climate disaster. I could go on and on and on. We also know just late last week, we saw the threat to a number of historically Black colleges and universities. And so, Bishop, let me ask you, should Black and brown folks in particular fasten their seatbelt and prepare to be the target of, really the weaponization of the federal government like we've never seen before?
I would perhaps use different language. I think that we should girdle up our loins and that we should become aware and clear about what our current reality is. Brother, I've been thinking a lot about the fact that I was born at the end of '67, just a few months before Dr. King was killed. And I have lived my entire life under the banner of the civil rights movement. And I have lived during a time where I was socialized to believe that America was leaning in toward a project of racial reconciliation. Now, I was clear that not everybody was on my side, but generally and broadly speaking, I was reared to believe that the momentum was with us. In fact, that may have been a ruse. And in fact, they are not all with us. And to some degree, those who pretended to be with us were with us in a very half-hearted kind of way. What I'm getting at is that we are moving into a point in time where I think we have to be clear that as African Americans, we are going back into captivity. And when Israel did go into captivity, Jeremiah gave them clear instructions: build houses, create businesses, flourish, and you can live in the middle of captivity, but be clear that this is the context in which you are living. If I can just take us back very briefly to 2020, to the Republican National Convention. This is in the aftermath of the George Floyd killings and, of course, all of the demonstrations that were incited as a result of that. Two of the featured guests were a married couple, the McCloskeys. It is a moment that I go back to over and over again in my mind. It is a moment that was seared into my consciousness, where these two upper middle class folks, based on where they lived, were given this airtime to essentially be the face of white America that was a palatable face that suggested that arming oneself in confronting Black bodies was absolutely palatable because you were protecting your property rights. When in fact, they came on and it was not dog whistles, but sirens that they blasted, such as they are coming to our quiet neighborhoods. If we let the Democrats win, they will abolish the suburbs. It was remarkable to me how clear and forthright and obvious they wanted to essentially create, in my mind, a declaration of war. I do believe that we are a country that is at war and that we as African Americans need to be aware of the fact that there are extremist Christians who are as deeply devoted to the gun as they are to the Bible. There are extremist Christians all over this country, particularly in the Pacific Northwest, where there are militia groups and militia camps that live on the grounds with their congregations. Jeff Charlotte, who I met with recently, who of course the groundbreaking reporting he did several years ago on the family. I just got a chance to spend some time with him, and he's talked about militia groups that he's gone to, congregations in North Carolina and other places that are really flying under the radar screens, connected to organizations like the New Apostolic Reformation. What I'm getting at is that there is a coordinated and highly institutionalized militia on the right wing that we saw on January 6th, the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, etc. On the left, yes, of course, we have actors that mean one no goodwill. But what we don't have is an institutionalized framework or setting wherewith those militias live in. We also don't have a pipeline between the Democratic Party and these militias as you do on the far right. And that pipeline, unfortunately, are extremist Christians. So we do have a real problem. We are dealing with a period in time in which folks are not just talking, but they have organized. And we have to be clear. There is no moral equivalency. This is not a problem on both sides. There is a baseline of actors on both sides who are willing to participate in political violence. And then beyond that, on the right, there is an institutionalization of a culture of violence through the creation of formally armed militias who are oftentimes deeply connected to right-wing religious fundamentalist, either small groups or larger networks.
I mean, you paint a picture where it's very clear we are up against something that certainly my generation hasn't seen before. How confident are you in our ability to meet this moment? I'll give you an example. The end of this month, we know that the continuing resolution to fund government expires. There's some talk here in Washington, D.C. that Democrats may actually summon the courage to shut down government, shut down the federal government, and live with the consequences. But that's not any sort of sure thing. If Democrats were to do that, would Democrats be essentially starving some of the Christian nationalist institutions that are now growing off of the federal government's dime?
I think that is the case. Ezra Klein, of course, in the New York Times wrote an article really advocating for Democrats to shut down the government. Since then, we've seen a lot of talk on the Sunday cable shows and beyond about whether or not that strategy makes a lot of sense. I actually do agree. This is the time to shut it down. And I do think that to some degree, the result of it would be that we would be starving the white Christian nationalist agenda, in that funding to pursue it through government expenditures would be cut off. Now, at the same time, we also know that they have other streams of funding that even a government shutdown won't be able to undermine. But I think more importantly than actually the funds that are cut off or not, this is an opportunity to make a huge and declarative statement about where the Democratic Party is in particular as a party of resistance. I think it would be a grave mistake for Schumer not to follow the left on this one.
Earlier, when you first joined, I played the clip of Pastor Wesley of Alfred Street Baptist Church, that clip from his sermon this past Sunday that has since gone viral. I can't help but notice that there are a number of very high-profile pastors and bishops that aren't as vocal as Pastor Wesley, certainly not out front. What's your message to some of your colleagues in this fight against white Christian nationalism? Do you think that your colleagues in the pulpit could be doing so much more? And in particular, our Black pastors, our Black bishops, are they too slow to understand the magnitude of this fight, or might some of them be compromised in terms of the support that they get from these white Christian nationalist institutions?
There are a group of African Americans who are absolutely stunned by the betrayal of white Christians who they perceived had bought into the project of the advancement of people of African descent and America becoming a place that really did live into its full ideals of equal protection under the law. So that's one group. I do think that there is a larger group that is caught off guard because their social justice muscle had atrophied. And so they did not have the infrastructure, they did not have the messaging, they did not have the response mechanisms in place. Their people weren't attuned to actually now participating in the front lines of a social justice fight, because it's been quite some time and we've been rather relaxed in many cases. Some of the more conservative churches, paying more attention to issues like the prosperity gospel, or just kind of being caught up in the kind of spiritual itness of the moment. None of it connected to social justice. So I do think, unfortunately, there are a lot of us who have missed the moment. But I also think it's important to lift up the fact that there are some of us who are seizing the moment. And these are African American pastors who aren't always the popular pastors, as it were. They're not a tele-evangelist, but you've got folks in the AME Church, you've got folks in the United Church of Christ, you've got African Americans and other mainline denominations such as the Disciples of Christ, and certainly in the LGBTQ community. So when you put that group of African American pastors and scholars and academics together, there is a group, certainly like the Proctor Conference and other groups, where people really are taking it to this administration and are standing very tall. I think the issue is the following that this particular sect of the Black church has, and at this point, what is the size of their microphone to really mobilize a larger percentage of the African American community or capture more of the African American community's imagination? But I believe that this is forthcoming for sure.
Bishop, I want you to stick around with us for one more segment. We know that Vice President Vance, speaking of audiences, tells Charlie Kirk's audience to notify employers of people celebrating his murder. I want to get your take on how this falls into alignment with what is typically a part of the white Christian nationalist playbook. We are talking to the one and only Bishop Joseph W. Tolton. For those of you who aren't familiar with Interconnected Justice, we'll also tell you a little bit more about that, the organization that he founded, when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent, and the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
no warrant, no key, my privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights.
So many things, big and little, make you uniquely you. Your hobbies, dreams, career, family, and more. Addiction to drugs, including opioids and stimulants, can strip these away from you. Recover your life. Choose treatment for drug addiction and get back to what matters most. Find a provider and proven treatment option that's right for you at ChooseChangeCA.org. Recover you.
If you're an African American mom who is pregnant or have a baby under 6 months old, you deserve care that lifts, listens, and lasts. Black Infant Health is for you. It's a free program with individual support, group sessions, and resources to start your mothering journey. BIH makes space for moms and their families to create community. Learn more about the programs in Los Angeles County. Check us out at blackinfanthealth.org.
Dr. Renee here. Did you know this time of year is considered peak asthma season because we typically see a spike in asthma-related hospitalizations? If you have asthma and are having difficulty breathing despite medication, it's time to check in with your doctor so you can help avoid landing yourself in the hospital this season. To learn more about managing your asthma, visit www.luma-edu.com. That's LUMA-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and he is Bishop Joseph W. Tolton, founder of Interconnected Justice. Bishop, for folks who are less familiar, what's Interconnected Justice? What does your organization do, and how can people tap in?
www.icjustice.org. Interconnected Justice is a Pan-African forum that connects people of African descent on the continent with those of us in the diaspora for the purposes of harvesting racial solidarity and moving forward and rebuking white Christian nationalism globally.
Well, you got your hands full there. That's a tough mission in these times. And for folks who may be unclear on this white Christian nationalist playbook that is afoot, we are seeing people at the highest level of our government certainly playing into what looks like and sounds like the white Christian nationalist playbook. I mentioned earlier that USA Today was reporting that a number of Trump officials are vowing to crack down on left-wing, quote-unquote, left-wing terrorism after the Charlie Kirk killing. We certainly saw Vice President J.D. Vance and Stephen Miller, the Deputy White House Chief of Staff, discuss plans to, quote, go after left-wing non-governmental organizations. We know that CBS News is reporting that U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said today that the Trump administration is investigating left-leaning organizations after the killing of Charlie Kirk. The Attorney General saying, yes, we're looking at a lot of people. Her comments come after just this past Sunday, the president told reporters that the problem is on the left and that some people are under major investigations. You study white Christian nationalism very closely. How on the nose are these comments from our government officials when it comes to the classic white Christian nationalist playbook?
When you think about other actors such as Viktor Orban or Putin, Museveni, formerly Bolsonaro, and now Ruto in Kenya, all of these leaders operate using the currency of fear. They are each one of them deeply connected to a religious political militia within their country that has captured the nation in each one of the respective countries that I lifted up. They operate using intimidation and fear. Trump and Vance are playing out of the very same playbook. I think it's important to go back to the pre-election time. Who did he meet with more than any other world leaders in real secrecy? And that was Viktor Orban. He is really using the Viktor Orban playbook. So this intimidation, this fear, this madness coming out of the State Department, in which Marco Rubio this week said that he was looking at talking with Congress about issuing a legislation in which he could revoke the passport of any American citizen who lifted up any political stance that was in opposition to Trump's foreign policy. I mean, this is absolutely madness of the highest order. This is absolutely what its name is: dominion, to completely and totally dominate that society and impose your will on that society. Quickly, I do want to speak to a question that I don't think I answered very well. What do we do in this moment? We've got to go back and create hush harbors. We know that folks are not going to church every Sunday, so that means we've got to create celebration Sundays, Sundays where we bring our whole community to the church. We've got to get our young people back in church so that they know our hymns and they know our songs, they know our Bible verses, and they know our stories. We've got to go to liberation schools. We've got to have peace officers and neighborhood patrols in our communities. The Black church has to directly confront and take on white Christian nationalists. We've got to start calling names. Joel Osteen, meet me at the studio and let's have a conversation. It's got to get that real. Like we're in those waters now, that it's got to get that real. We've got to push the Africa Union to speak out on domestic racism happening here in the United States. That must happen. And we've got to deepen our connections with Brazil. They've done an outstanding job of supporting the political process in that country, which has led to Bolsonaro actually being convicted for his overthrow of the government there in Brazil. We've got to deepen that Afro-Brazilian connection.
I mean, speaking of what we have to do both here at home and abroad, next week is the UN General Assembly. We want to have you back next week to help us do a look back at the president's visit to New York for the UN General Assembly. This is one of the biggest stages in the world. We know that there's a lot at stake, including AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, which is set to expire this year. We've already seen examples of a number of African leaders who've begun to accept deportees to their countries, Ghana and Rwanda and South Sudan being among them. And so much more to talk about. But we really thank you for joining us, Bishop Tolton.
Thank you, Dr. Quartelai. Thank you.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward, but our thanks to Interconnected Justice founder, Bishop Tolton. You know, this was real talk related to a real issue, a real threat, dare I say, white Christian nationalism. He knows what he's talking about as a former advisor to the U.S. State Department's Office of Religion and Global Affairs, and we'll be sure to have him back again soon. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. A Chicago City Council committee has approved a $90 million settlement to resolve 176 lawsuits tied to disgraced former Sergeant Ronald Watts, who was Black. Corporation Counsel Mary Richardson Lowry says it's far less than the $500 million the city could have faced. Demolition has begun at Robles Park Village, Tampa, Florida's oldest public housing complex. The 30-acre site will be redeveloped into a mixed-income community with nearly 2,000 units, a grocery store, and a community hub. Part of the land